She's driving. She's on her way. She sent a text that start without her. She'll be here in 15 or so minutes.
I see.
But she can just drop in. Hey, man, if some people got stuff to do, it's okay. We can have a conversation.
It's true. We can.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I.
Yeah, I like that.
I've seen the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all's when the sun comes shining through. To build those rainbows in my mind, when I think of you sometimes, I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Two of us. You and I.
All right. I'm going to edit the shit out of this because I'm including you singing just the two of us. That's one.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I didn't think we were rolling. Otherwise, I would have saved that.
Oh, for later?
Or I don't know, for never, probably. But that's okay.
You can bust it out anytime. Anytime's
Okay.
good.
So is it just the three of us then?
Well, for now, Sarah's going to drop in.
Oh.
All right. So, this is the special Elsie's Pissed Off edition.
/ abortion edition.
Right.
/ not mutually exclusive.
All right. Yeah, right. I guess those don't have to happen at the same time for the one to exist.
No, they certainly don't. But I guess, we'll go ahead and get started right away. Welcome to a very special abortion edition of a Shinn Show.
Abortion. The remix. Abortion remix.
Right.
All right.
Well done. Joining me is Nicholas. I won't tell you from where because somehow that's some sort of sin these days. Anyway, son Nicholas is joining me. And with me also spouse Elsie. Hello, spouse Elsie.
Hello, spouse Peter.
All right.
And stepson Nick.
All right.
They also have, that's not their first name, spouse. That's just the thing they're saying.
Right. Right. And
to clear up any confusion.
Well, and just for any additional confusion clear up, it should be noted that we are in different places geographically speaking. I won't say where, just because I don't want to offend anyone.
You know what? You should make up different names, too. Just make names up.
Hi, this is Raul in Congolia Fussmucker. Joining me is Damien Muckenfuss. Yeah, I could do that. Actually, but those names, Fussmucker and Muckenfuss, stole those from George Carlin. Early Carlin bit.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would approve.
From heaven, yes.
Yeah.
Probably would.
Or from limbo.
Yeah, right. Or hell. Wherever. Yeah. Right? Or some other...
Maybe some sort of purgatorial type situation.
Who can say? Or another dimension entirely. Or another state of matter and energy.
Yeah, like a Force Ghost. Maybe the Force Ghost of George Carlin would approve.
Maybe the Force Ghost of George Carlin will join us on this podcast.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
That would be very cool.
I'd enjoy that. Well, in any event, let's get right to the news. Dominated this week by abortion.
The big A.
Right.
I feel like I have to represent on my own. I'd rather wait for the subject until Sarah joins.
Oh, I see. All right. So
she'll have plenty to say about it, but yeah,
right.
Okay, yeah, we can circle back around.
Us people with uteruses have a lot to say about it, believe it or not.
Yeah. I guess you both do share that trait.
I will say this, though, which is that it seems odd that a female governor would sign that into law in Alabama.
Well, she's clearly ignorant and
the part where you said in Alabama makes that suddenly make sense.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, that's fair.
That clears it up right there.
Wait, is she past the age of childbearing, and is she also privileged and white? What? No.
All right.
Is she not married? Is she married?
Yeah, I'm sure she is. And if no one else, she's married to Jesus.
Yeah, to Jesus, to the Jesusaurus Rex.
The big J.
Yeah, as they call him.
Yeah.
So did you hear all the shit I was saying about Area 51, dude?
Well, I heard some of it. Why don't you repeat it? That someone was out there and they saw little green men or something?
Well, yeah, so that guy, I can't remember his name, the guy I was talking about last time who was like worked there and had said like they're doing all this shit. There's this girl who
this journalist, Annie Jacobson,
All
I
right.
believe her name is.
Sure, Annie Jacobson, the journalist.
Yeah, who interviewed a bunch of people who worked at Area 51, and a lot of them claimed that because the original guy, I can't remember his fucking name, but he said that he walked by a window, a room, and looked in the room that he was not supposed to be looking into just for 1 second, and saw two agents standing over something, like something that was little and looked humanoid. And he's like, he didn't even know if it was a dummy, could have been a dummy, could have been anything.
Could have been a weather balloon.
Could have been a weather balloon. It probably was. But this lady claims that one of this 90-year-old man who worked at Area 51 said that the little men that were seen coming out of the plane that Truman went and met were just two people that Stalin, not Stalin himself, but his team of scientific medical goons surgically altered. They operated on these people and made them look more similar to aliens, and then put them in some weird craft and had it crash in Area 51 so that they would, the idea being that humans would be like, oh, these motherfuckers came from Russia and they're talking to Russia and they have advanced technology. But the real issue was that Russia had managed to allegedly crash a craft so close to somewhere where they were doing nuclear tests.
Well, that's all very interesting, I suppose. So, in fact, the idea that there are aliens is actually a Russian plot. Is that the concept? Just that we've been contacted, but the man himself, who wished to remain anonymous, started crying to her, this 90-year-old man, allegedly, and said, since we saw that these guys we wanted to see how Russia made humans surgically look like aliens. So we obviously mimicked the experiments ourselves on people. Well, that's interesting.
It's like an arms race, People are always trying to catch up with each other.
Yeah, people are always trying to make human beings look more like aliens.
Well, I certainly am. Anytime I get my hands on someone who's unconscious. But the point is...
Right, how do we make those ears a little more pointy? How do we make your skin just a little greener? And how do we take a foot or two off your height?
Yeah, and how can we make those eyes 35 to 50% larger?
Right, and more almond-shaped.
But the guy... the moral of the story is the guy claimed that they did the experiments they did that America did to surgically alter people to look like aliens, whereas on handicapped children.
Oh, well, that makes it worse. And by the way, we don't call them handicapped children anymore, Nicholas. We call them developmentally disabled. Thank you.
All right.
So if aliens impregnated Southern women, would they be allowed to abort then?
No.
No.
Absolutely not. No, because clearly God created that life.
Yeah, that was in God's plan.
Maybe, but aren't the type of people that are usually against abortion also very anti-alien? So is that a win or a fail? I don't know.
No, they're pro-alien for sure.
Yeah, they're pro-alien, anti-abortion. They want that union. You know what I mean? They want that Prometheus type.
Yeah, but very much pro-death penalty.
Yeah, very much pro-electric chair and pro-executing of developmentally disabled children.
Yes, well,
I'm just kidding.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. Or can you? Yeah. I think
can you? Maybe if you're a senator, you just write up a bill.
Right, or you just eat up some cake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do.
Cake. I don't really understand the saying have cake and eat it too.
I can explain it to you.
What are you going to do with it if you had it but weren't going to eat it?
No, let me explain having my cake and eating it too, because clearly you are going to have your cake and eat it too. It's just at the end of the eating process, you will no longer have cake. I'll give you a specific example.
Oh, okay.
About 8 days ago at the Annapolis Diner, I had 2 giant pieces of chocolate cake that I ate. All but a few bites. Bradley chipped in on a few bites. But I did eat almost all of it. And that was a clear-cut example of me having my cake and then eating it too. Now, at the end of it, admittedly, I had no cake. But I had my cake and I ate it too. Clearly. So I'm able to have my cake and eat it too, by definition. So the
alternative being that you just have cake, but
right.
you won't eat it. It's
no.
just there in your hands or on a plate or something, sitting in front of you that you're not going to eat.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Under no circumstances.
Okay.
But there was other news that was non-abortion related this week.
Yeah. Interesting?
No, I can't think of a thing. Actually, I will say this. Justin Amash, who's a representative from Michigan, sent out a series of tweets on Saturday in which he said that it was his opinion, having read the 400-plus page Mueller report cover to cover, that the president had indeed committed impeachable offenses. He's the first Republican senator or lawmaker rather, in either the Senate or the House to so state that he believed that.
Okay, so what?
Right. Right. In other news, you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
That's a good example as well.
Yeah, it is. And, by the way, then the following day, Mitt Romney, junior senator from Utah, who was Mittens, who has previously said that President Trump's behavior is sickening and reprehensible and so on and so forth.
And he's not even named. President Trump isn't even named after a glove. So how could I trust him? Quote Senator Romney.
Right. If your first name isn't some sort of hand-related apparel, how can I believe you? How can I trust you? I can't. I can neither believe nor trust. So in any event, no. But what he actually said was, well, that Representative Justin Amash, he's got courage, but I disagree with him.
Yeah.
It
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. Really doesn't.
None of it matters. Yeah. We'll just wait until 2024, and then he'll have served his 2 terms, and we'll move on.
Interesting. I read an interesting article about the concept of lawlessness versus lawfulness. What those two things mean.
What do they mean to you?
Well, I thought that the article's author had a pretty good argument to make that we are currently living in among the most lawless times in American history. In the sense that the Constitution, for example, the Constitution is deliberately vague. So how we actually run our country is based on a series of norms. And once we no longer agree on what those norms are, then the Constitution becomes less and less of an issue. Yes. It becomes redundant, if you will. It becomes actually a piece of paper that no one is really looking at or reading. And in that case, if we are not indeed a nation of norms, then really what governs us?
Fear of the police.
Right. Fear of being taken away. So, it's a short trip from representative republic to authoritarian state. That's the point of this article, which I agree with wholeheartedly. Very short step.
So believing that, how do you feel about guns?
I love them.
Yeah. You think they should stay around, right?
Well, you know what? 80 to 90% of Americans believe in some sort of sensible regulations.
Yeah.
Regulations, that some sort of reasonable guidance about who should have weapons and obviously some sensible limits. And oh, by the way, the Supreme Court felt that way until 2008. All the precedent until 2008 up to that point said that basically the Second Amendment is not a gun rights clause, it's a militia clause. A well-regulated militia. Those are the first words in the Second Amendment. And so previous interpretations did not suggest, by the Supreme Court, did not view gun ownership as an individual right, but rather as a highly regulated right that had every bit of relationship to whether or not you're part of the militia.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that changed in 2008, and we're not better off for it.
So in relation to this article you just spoke of as America living in a time of unprecedented lawlessness.
Yes.
Would you rather have a bunch of guns for yourself? Yeah, because it's not whether or not people have guns, because people have guns. You can't just take them now. Like the cat's out of the bag. It's like trying to put toothpaste back in the toothpaste container. You know what I mean? Like once you squirt it all out, now it's, So I feel like it's, I was kind of like maybe everybody should have guns. I remember saying that on the very first podcast we did. And then Dad kind of told me the story that
first of all, there's a skit that delves into everyone having guns. So like somebody tries to hold up the bakery or something and 15 people draw guns and then everybody's pointing guns at each other, whatever. But
do you remember that from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Dennis and Dee are trying to prove how easy it is?
Yeah, and they can't get a gun,
and so they find a cheap place to get a gun, and he's like, or they find a place to get a gun where they don't do background checks, but it's real expensive. And then, so he's like, well, how about I just take it then? Because I'm a maniac with a gun, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And then everybody pulls out a gun and puts it in his face, and he's like, okay, I see now that I am the dangerous one. Set this gun down and
walk away slowly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so there's that argument, right? The argument, so this is a specious argument, right? Which is that when there's a bad person with a gun, the only thing that can stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun.
Or lack of bullets.
Or how about we keep the guns out of the hands of bad people? I mean, that's the obvious answer. Now,
it's a lot easier said than done, though.
I will tell you.
Buy illegal guns all the time, just with serial numbers scratched off and whatnot.
Yeah.
I've been listening to this conspiracy theory podcast because that's like my secret pleasure or whatever. And it's called It Could Happen Here. And so it talks about different ways the next civil war could happen in America. And my first thought after listening to it was like, I need a fucking gun.
Right.
Yeah. You should have
exactly.
one.
Well, you do have one. I gave you
some sort of firearm.
As you may recall, I gave each of you shotguns, long guns, when you were children.
Which I still have.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm obviously not against gun ownership. The safest I ever felt in my life was wearing a piece every day in Afghanistan. I never felt more secure.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is what do you think is the appropriate amount of protection? Do you think like an M4 in your house is a little much, or would you be like, I got it, so.
Well, see, I'm of two minds of the subject, right?
Or would you rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it?
I guess what I would say is that if we were a sensible society and we said, hey, you can have a handgun or even a rifle, but you can't have an assault rifle. And by the way, if you want to have a handgun or if you want to have another firearm, no problem, but you need to take a gun safety course and have a background check. I'd be all for that.
Yeah, that almost sounds reasonable.
That's
though.
logical.
Like, I don't know. I don't know about that.
By the way, this is daughter Sarah joining us, also from an undisclosed location.
They know who I am by now, and if they don't, then they don't need to know.
This is the lovely and talented Elderbrook Basenschnaffenweisen.
I like it.
Well, a few things.
I have now adopted this as my title.
At any point in time, somebody might be listening for the first time. So they don't know, maybe, potentially. But more importantly, I'm sure glad that we're, banning the ability for a woman to have an abortion before we ban assault rifles.
Holy shit, I cannot. Holy fuck. Like, get
By
your
the way,
goddamn hands off my body.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't even an issue for me.
Right.
Necessarily, because I'm unlikely to get pregnant unless I'm assaulted.
Right, but there's the crux of the issue, right?
But if I get assaulted, you better damn well believe I want to have the ability to get an abortion.
Well, don't move to Alabama.
Right, don't do that.
Or
Georgia.
Mississippi.
Or Missouri.
Or Missouri.
I didn't know about Mississippi. I thought it was just Georgia and Alabama.
No.
Nope.
It's
Georgia,
Missouri.
Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, Ohio, Missouri,
What?
Arkansas,
Whoa.
Utah.
Yep.
What?
Yes.
6 and 8 week fucking abortion laws that you can. I think it might just be Georgia or Alabama. One of them has you can go to life in prison for getting a fucking abortion.
Yeah.
That
I
would be
remember you
Georgia.
mentioned-
So Alabama, they persecute or prosecute, I should say, the doctors more so than the women. And in Georgia, it's the other way around. So in Georgia, if you leave the state of Georgia to have an abortion, they find out they can still fuck you, which makes you somehow belong to the state. What the fuck?
Yeah. Your body
if you
is
help
property of
somebody-
the state.
If you help somebody go get an abortion, so if you drive the car to take them out of state, you can also be prosecuted. If you have a miscarriage and they determine that it wasn't an accident or a natural act of God, you can go to prison.
Right.
How would you determine that exactly anyway?
Well,
I was going to say, if you have a good enough lawyer, he can make it sound like it was an act of God. for
my
sure.
client
If it's
did
an act
never.
of God.
Yes.
Who has abortions? Poor people.
Right,
You think
right.
a poor
Who can
person's
afford
gonna
this
have
lawyer?
A good enough lawyer?
All right. Well, I don't even think you need to be a good enough lawyer. Just any kind of. I bet a public defender could make it seem like it was an act of God.
Yeah. Well.
Sure.
Yeah.
In a state that's
God,
actually
you know
crazy
what?
enough to pass
You know
that?
what?
You know what
God
I'm saying?
wanted you.
I could do it. I'm not
God
saying-
wanted you to get pregnant.
Yeah, but he also decided, hey, are we going to question the Lord's divine plan? Who are any of us to question his divine plan?
Right. So you don't need an abortion.
Everything that happens on this earth, including a miscarriage, is part of his divine plan. For you to sit there and tell me that you can understand or try to, predetermine what his plan could be, no. That was part of the Lord's plan, all right?
Because we all know that child born of that incestual rape is going to be the next Einstein, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, so
anyway.
The point is that I find it very interesting that, ultimately, we're not a rational country at the moment.
No.
We're just...
We're very Handmaid's Tale, and it's bullshit.
But I also love the fact that life is so precious that we can put born children in cages. That's cool. Yeah. But, let's protect the one that's not born yet. Right, exactly.
Yeah. And people say give them up for adoption. Hey, just have it and give it up for adoption. But, dude, like 30 to 40% of children in foster care are either abused or neglected. So, let's not even just go there. Let's just, I don't know. And I guess the real issue I get where these people are coming from. They think they're saving babies, okay? They're not like...
No, they don't. No, they don't. No. They want to control women's bodies. That's all this is about.
They think they're saving babies, but
I think a lot of the people who voted for this aren't evil. I don't think it's some weird convoluted scheme to control your bodies. There's better ways to do that.
Let's be clear. The people have not voted on this. The state legislatures have, and it's all been white men.
Well, that's who's got the power, yo. So, I will tell you, there are some things to consider here. I tend to agree with Nicholas in that these people are not inherently evil in terms of their intent.
They're just misguided and ignorant. That's all it is. I don't think they're evil. They're just stupid as fuck.
What they are, though, is misogynistic in the sense that, hey, a woman's body is... Why would we give control of a woman's body to white men? That does really what it boils down to is women aren't in a position to be able to choose what to do with their own bodies. Now, the other side of the argument, just like you say, Nicholas, is, no woman should be able to choose to terminate a life. But on the other hand, it's a complicated issue. Where does life begin?
Yeah. That's the real question is where does it begin, Well, does abortion bother you if it was like a 5-month or 6-month abortion? Would that bother you at all or no?
It depends on how life-threatening it is.
Depends on the
situation.
situation.
Could live outside of the womb.
I would say that if a child could live outside of the womb, then it probably shouldn't be terminated unless it's something like a stillbirth or there's great harm and there's not a great chance for survival.
Or it's rape or incest. They didn't know they were pregnant for a long time because maybe they're ignorant or young or who knows what.
Yeah, that could be too.
It's very situationally specific.
Well, exactly.
My case.
But also those sorts of situations are probably going to pose some sort of genetic risk.
Well, you're right. And I think that not only should women have the right to choose whatever, I don't think the government should have any say in what you do with yourself, as long as you're not hurting anyone else.
But that's the crux of the issue.
That is the crux of the issue. With abortion, you are, by definition, in the minds of those who are passing these laws, harming an unborn human being.
Right, but those same people, let's see, so Viagra's okay? So it's okay for men to impregnate women, even when they're too old to get it up on their own anymore. Let's see, we can, all the rich white people that want their rich white babies, rather than adopting somebody else, they want to spend shitloads of money on fertility treatments and then give birth to litters, and that's okay. There's just so many things that are
I see what
direct
you mean.
odds
you
of
can
what we're
do
doing.
other things to alter your body and make shit make as much life as you want, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, if something's really it's not a good situation for you to have a child and you get that taken care of before, it's even a fucking born fetus, then all of a sudden that's not okay. Not okay at all.
And of course, it's always woman's fault, right? If a woman gets pregnant, it's her fault. She shouldn't have been having sex, or she should have been having more protection or something.
That's
because antibiotics don't interfere at all with hormones, and men can't get vasectomies. And why is it a woman's fault from beginning to end?
Well, because again, they want to control our bodies, and it's all biblical, right? It all ties back to the Bible. But here, because Eve sinned, Eve is the one who sinned, and it all ends up being hatred towards women. But here's the other thing is that if they wanted to like save babies and shit, then they would promote, sexual
Contraception?
education.
Yeah, they would
Yes.
provide everything that you need to not have
Yeah,
it.
and then you would have safe babies. All these laws are going to do is kill women.
Well, that's true because that's the history of it, right?
Yeah, it's gonna drive
Yeah,
it back
they're-
to
they're-
the
they're-
back alley abortion.
There are precedents for
Which
this,
is a
guys.
cool band name. I'm just gonna say, back alley abortion would be a cool band name.
Sure.
Well, so Brad brought up his AP government class was talking about how Alabama's got some of the highest levels of rape, incest, childbirth mortality rates. Like, they already are the worst at all these fucking things that now they're just going to make these women deal with.
Well, I don't think this is going to last forever. I mean, we can't just keep backpedaling into the past socially forever. Someone, maybe if we get a new president, I mean, I know you can't just make things legal federally left and right when you're president, but maybe if we get a new...
No.
Yeah,
Nay,
you
nay,
can.
Nicholas. Nay. Let me give you a
Okay.
very specific example.
Wait. Let me just finish my thought here. The
All
point
right.
is maybe if we get a new president who can apparently make things legal federally left and right, they'll just federally say, hey, abortion's legal, like federally. So,
Yeah.
We
That-
did that with
Yeah.
Wade versus Roe.
Mm-hmm.
Or Roe
okay,
versus
wait.
Wade.
So
Not-
how can a state...
I like Wade versus Roe, though. Let's switch it up. That's
Because
what I
state
said.
Roe- what did I
sovereignty.
say?
Instead
You
of
said Wade
v.
versus Roe. Yeah, Roe versus
What-
Wade.
Roe v. Wade. Yeah, that's usually what they say, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
I like Wade versus Roe, though, just to switch things up.
Yeah.
Because
just
states
switch it
are
up.
allowed a certain amount of sovereignty. You
I
know,
was
that's
testing
why.
you guys.
Good point.
A certain amount of sovereignty, yeah,
Right.
but then now we're talking about like the state government should have absolutely no say in what you do with your own body.
Yeah, well, here's two things, right? First of all, actually, all of these laws are being passed specifically so that they will be challenged in court. There are
Yeah.
very few people who believe that these laws are in fact a good idea, even in the states in which they're passing. What's happening is they're setting up legal challenges designed to get the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade and
Yep.
return the issue to the states.
Yep.
So that's what's happening. Now, it is an open question. What's interesting to me is that although, we think that we know how guys like Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh and whoever the last person is before those to get, we think we know how these people are going to vote. The fact is that the history of the Supreme Court tells us we don't actually know how people are going to vote. And so if these cases come before the Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade is reaffirmed, well, then all of this will have been for nothing in terms of the people who are trying to turn back the clock.
Okay,
So-
so let me ask you a question, dude. So this is obviously a very organized thing for all these states to ban abortion so that eventually this is like a whole master evil plan. So who do you think there's some sort of cabal where they all got together and
Yeah, it's called the RNC.
Well, even beyond that, John Oliver has a fabulous episode on this where all the real shit happens locally. So there are organizations out there that basically create these templates of these bills, and they basically court all of these state representatives until they can find somebody who's willing to sponsor it. And then it's basically like you X out the state that was used before, you write your own, and it's already packaged for you.
it's like
And
an
they're getting
ad-lib
kickbacks
thing.
for it too.
Yeah, so there's an organization called
Badly.
National Right to Life. There's, Pro-Choice Unity. There's a lot of different groups out there that are essentially lobbying groups on behalf of fetuses. So
Feti.
fetuses have one of the most powerful lobbies in the United States. Wouldn't it be nice if living human beings had that same kind of lobby, like people lobbying for a living wage and so forth? But look, the point here is simply that,
Thanks, Bernie Sanders.
thanks, Bernie bro. In any event, the point here is that, there is not a master evil plan. There's people who understand the levers of our representative democracy, republic really is what it is, and are pulling those levers on behalf of what they believe.
So don't you think it's interesting that someone who could be so informed and educated on how to make things happen in the country could be so ignorant on what, an abortion entails sometimes? Like to just throw a blanket ban over something like that, no matter what the situation, no matter what the case, if you get one, it's illegal, you're going to jail. Doesn't that seem kind of uneducated and ignorant rather than informed and educated.
You think that representatives are informed and educated? That's the ideal. That'd be great, but it's not always the case.
Well, and I see your point, Nicholas, which is obviously these are clever people who are doing this. You would think they would
they're clever. They're cunning.
Right, right. You would think they would be clever enough to realize that this is not sensible from a societal standpoint.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, I get that. But hey, you know what? People are operating in what they perceive to be their own best interests, not in the interests of what's good for all of society.
Well, I guess true and good and right are objective to everybody.
Turning the table slightly, let me ask a question of you, Nick and Peter, and that would be, let's say you got a girl pregnant. You're in a relationship or whatever, maybe even not, and you think, gosh, I'd like to be a father, and this might be my only chance because I can't get pregnant, and she wants to have an abortion. Do you feel like the man who impregnated the woman should have any say in whether or not she has one?
That is a very interesting question. It's hard for me to, it's so hard for me to imagine getting someone pregnant being like, I want to keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm not saying that all 4 of my children were accidental and or not my own, but I'm not saying that they weren't either.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if it was... Well, no. I'm going to say no because, first off, you can knock her up anytime. That's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? You can knock her up. If she don't want to do it now, maybe she'll do it later.
Right.
Okay?
So, right.
Off, you don't have to carry that thing inside you for 9 fucking months and then push that motherfucker out. That's just a horrifying, that whole process. It's an alien growing inside you.
Yeah.
The thought of having something growing inside you the size of a baby is just horrifying to me. So if a woman's like, hey, that's horrifying to me too, I don't want to do that, I'd be like, yeah, I can't blame you.
All right.
Do what you want.
Okay. That's interesting. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to give an actual answer. I mean, obviously,
What?
I've been
That's
part
not
of...
an actual answer.
No, that is an actual answer. I'm going to give my actual answer now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not saying
That's not what he said, but
that's
but
not
I
what
like
he
the
said at
backpedal.
all. He is definitely.
Yeah, I didn't mean to denigrate or belittle your answer, Nick.
I think you did, but that's all right. We'll move on.
No, I just actually did, but I didn't mean to, you see.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so the answer to that question is, if I really wanted a baby, I guess I'd feel bad about it. But then I'd get over it because guess what? Just for all the reasons you said, hey, guess what? I don't have to carry this thing for 9 months.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah,
No,
we just sit there and wait until it happens.
Right, and other things. But anyway, yeah, I this thing is fraught, right? This is the thing that I don't get. These decisions, just like Elsie is saying, are so individual, so personal, so situational dependent.
Case sensitive.
Yeah, it's case sensitive indeed. I mean, that ultimately, who is the government to say, in all circumstances, X, Y, or Z should happen? That seems to me fundamentally un-American.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too when I'm saying that the government shouldn't be able to tell, especially not anyone, especially women in this case, but the government shouldn't be able to tell people what to do with their own bodies. That's just the way it is.
Well, if somebody got gangrene in their arm, maybe they are fine with it, but maybe they want to amputate that arm. And it shouldn't be somebody else's choice.
Right. Exactly.
Unless you're mentally, not competent to make the decision, and you are.
That's not even something we're getting into right now.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing too. So like,
yeah,
you let Mr. Gangrene in or whatever. I don't know.
Right, but most women who are getting abortions, I mean, obviously, there's probably some cases out there where it's like, all right, I'm knocked up, I don't want an abortion, no big deal. But for most women, it is an emotional decision that can be very difficult in the first place. So you don't really need all this extra fucking pressure from the man up in your vagina about it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it too. All right, so I want to get back to this issue of lawlessness in our country. And I said I was going to give you a very specific example. And the specific example that I will give you is the request for President Trump's tax returns by the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, who is authorized under law to get the tax returns of any U.S. citizen in the United States.
Right. Yeah.
And
he refused.
And the Treasury Secretary shall, not should, not will make a determination, shall provide those returns. And right now, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has said, I've determined that, nah, dog. That's basically it. I've determined, nah, dog.
Okay, yeah, you're right, Dad. But so all these rules exist, okay, to keep there's checks and balances. And then when something like this happens, where like Trump says, no, I'm not going to give you my tax returns, then what do? He's the commander in chief. You know what I mean? Like, he's the boss. That's like asking your boss, like, hey, can I see like how much you're taking out of my tips or whatever? And he's like, no, you can't. So now what are you going to do? You're going to fire him? No. Like, he's the boss. So now you got to just accept it or leave.
Yeah, well, so...
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, and what you're describing is the definition of lawlessness, because Trump is not the boss. President Trump is an elected public official.
An employee of the state.
So if indeed the law says, thou shalt do this, and you say, I'm not going to do that, do you know what that makes you? In any other society? Yeah, that makes you a lawbreaker. So ultimately, this is just one of several examples of the legislative branch saying, or at least a part of the legislative branch, and when I say a part, the House of Representatives is a part of the legislative branch. They have vested powers as part of the Constitution. So to the extent that the executive branch is now thumbing its nose at the legislative branch, and, oh, by the way, the legislative branch, half the legislative branch, which is controlled by the president's party, is saying, that's okay. Well, they may not find it to be so okay if Democrats take charge and decide, you know what? If what happens when a Democrat becomes elected president? Again, as will at some point happen. Well, I say it'll happen. Who knows? Maybe President Trump will decide, you know what? I have determined that the will of the American people is for me to run a third time. And I've determined, by the way, that the election results favored me 90% to 10%.
Even though there were only 500,000 registered voters, I won by a landslide of 1 million votes.
Let me tell you something. This is how it happens. It could very easily happen, because if he's not willing to obey what Congress is telling him to do, why in the world would he be willing to step down after 2 terms?
Dude,
why?
That's exactly what I just said. He's the boss. He's the commander in chief. He's got the army. It's kind of like when the Supreme Court told Andrew Jackson that you can't take these Native Americans' land here. We made a deal with them. And then Andrew Jackson was like, but I got the army, so I'm going to do what the fuck I want, and you can eat a dick.
So, on the other hand, that's a good point, because thus has it ever been. No?
Yes.
That's true. I mean, look at FDR, one of my favorite presidents. There had been a norm that you would only run for 2 terms. He said, nah, dog, I'm going to run for a third. And then,
I have determined that, it would be just better if I ran for a third.
And while on the one hand, I do think that's a dick move, in those particular circumstances at the time, it's hard to hate.
Hard to hate. Yeah, unless you happen to be Cherokee. Then you're right there. Yeah, if you're Cherokee, the whole Andrew Jackson thing, still a little raw.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson, what's that got to do with FDR?
Andrew, that's what we were talking about before FDR. If you were paying attention, not looking at Facebook. Yeah. Anyway, that's okay. Facebooking's important at all times.
Delete Facebook, lawyer up, hit the gym.
Right. All right. So anyway, there was some UFC fights last night. I understand. Did I say UFC? I meant UFC.
UFC.
UFC. But before we get to UFC, anybody read anything? See anything? Anything like that? Any movies?
No.
I saw myself making dinner.
Did I go to? I don't think I went to. Shit, man, I don't know.
Elsie's out.
She's got shit to do, as do I, honestly, but I'll stay.
What shit do you?
I got pepper jacks to tarnish, bro.
What do you? What does that mean? Pepper jacks to tarnish.
That means
he's gonna get some pepper jack. Tarnish it.
Yeah, tarnish is a verb that I use to encompass many verbs. It could mean a lot of things. You know what I mean? In this case, it means I'm going to eat all of the pepper jacks until there is no more.
You're going to destroy
in
the
ravenous fashion.
Yeah, what some people would call destroy. Or devour, or consume, or inhale.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing tarnish on there this time. I'm going to tarnish that pepper jacks.
Oh, I don't blame you right there, because after all, it's just too much of a hassle to get down to our fake sponsor, Ziff's. Fine dining and a relaxed continental atmosphere in Invercargill, New Zealand, fake sponsors of a Shinn Show for almost 100th of a century. And while you're down there, you might as well finish up after your light, refreshing meal at Ziff's with a nice, heavy tattoo from the Throne Room, also a fake sponsor of a Shinn Show, also in Invercargill, New Zealand. Shout out to Ben and to Chris. All right, anyway.
I feel like we determined how big Invercargill was.
Yeah.
But is it what was the consensus on that? Does anybody remember? Is it a small place?
100,000. That's what we determined.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's
sounds right, doesn't it?
Medium.
Yeah.
Schmedium.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it is just a hop, skip, and a jump from anywhere. From, Ziff's to the Throne Room. Wherever the fuck those two buildings are located in Invercargill, they are a hop, skip, and a jump away from each other. They're even on the farthest ends of town.
Yeah, they're certainly within driving distance.
Worst case scenario, hop, skip, and a jump.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, though, you're going to eat some pepper jacks after this is all said and done.
Going to tarnish some pee-pee jacks.
Yeah. So I didn't see anything. I don't believe I read anything. I did nothing except watch Sopranos again. We are slogging our way through the final season.
The way both of you talk about Sopranos as you watch it just makes it seem like it's a fucking chore sometimes. We're fucking getting there. We're just getting through that season.
They're pretty good. They are long.
Yeah, it's a mountain of marinara.
That's true. Okay, they have all of these names for this pasta, and it's always just fucking penne pasta with ragu on top. Like, I swear to God, there's never any variety.
You don't know that it's ragu.
They
could be grandma's special.
It could be Prego or whatever.
Marinara.
Could be Newman's Own. Hard to say.
I don't know. All I know is that those are penne noodles, and it's just fucking pasta.
Yeah, well, it's really about the mob action. It's really not about the cuisine.
Isn't Steve Shrippa on The Sopranos?
Yeah, he is. Matter of fact.
Yeah, he was on the Eric Andre show. He was a guest on Eric Andre's show.
Who is he on The Sopranos? Because I don't know that name.
I don't know, but he's on it.
I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Eric's co-host, Hannibal Buress, handed Steve Shrippa 3 walnuts, and he's like, here, crack these. Obviously joking, and he just did. Like, cracked 3 walnuts with his fucking hands.
Yeah, that must be Polly Walnuts. Because that's...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That's probably why he handed him the walnuts. I just thought he was being weird and just handed him walnuts because they always fuck with him. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that'd be a good way to go.
Steve Shrippa got mad, too. He was about to beat his ass. His words literally were, I'll be the first guest on here to kick your ass. As he was throwing, stairs the dad's trying to get to him.
That sounds just like Polly Walnuts, actually. He's my favorite character.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like that in real life.
Yeah. Polly. He's a violent thug on the show. Probably in real life.
Who has no interest in leading.
No, not at all. Why?
His grip, dude. His grip's got to be so fucking gnarly. If he can just crush 3 walnuts in his hand like that, imagine what he could do to your wrist. Like, he just grabs your wrist and crushes it like so many walnuts.
You know what Polly Walnuts would say to that? Ho! That's what he'd say to that.
Oh!
Exactly. Well done.
You got it.
All right. So, no movies for you kids? None seen?
I feel like I went to the movies, but I can't remember what we saw.
Man, that's
Avengers, and we already talked about that.
No, I went to something else.
Oh.
I
don't know. I'm going to go see John Wick this weekend, on Tuesday.
Badass. That's awesome.
What the fuck did we go see?
You already saw it?
No.
No, I'm talking to Dad.
Oh.
John Wick?
Said
No.
It's awesome.
No, I'm saying it's awesome that you're going. I haven't seen it. But
I thought you meant that you had seen it.
Spoiler alert, though.
There's guns.
Keanu Reeves kills a bunch of motherfuckers in that thing. I mean, all sorts of ways.
You remember how the second one ended?
Yeah, I do. He was on the run.
Yeah.
With every
assassin. He's on the phone with the main head CEO of the worldwide assassin company. He's like, if you do this, I gotta fucking put the hit out on you for like worldwide. And then John Wick's like, I gotta do it. And then they hang up the phone and the dude puts the hit out on him. All the operators do. And then like
they all get a phone call at the same time, and it's like everyone around him.
Yeah, the dude's he's just in a park, and then all the people in the park just stop and look at their phone and like look at him.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I didn't realize there were that many assassins in the world, but there are apparently.
Yeah, everyone is except us, I think.
We've missed our calling, apparently. Yeah.
Well, we're
have we though?
Keep it cool. Everyone else will assume that we are like them and hopefully not fuck with us.
Well, let's hope.
See, this is the whole if everyone has guns argument again, right?
Yeah.
Some sort of
Except
herd
in this
immunity.
situation, we have no guns. Just us three. Everyone in the world does. I think that would make us safer if everyone in the world but us had guns, because then no one would be even worried about us.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true, and we're no problem. I
And
will
you're not
say,
actually going to draw a gun on anyone.
true.
Well, yeah, but you might get a gun drawn on you.
I will say this about guns, though, which is that I'm not for concealed carry. I'm for open carry. My view is that if you got a gun on you, you should have it on your hip, or you should have it prominently displayed. We should know who the people are who have guns.
Yeah, it discourages nonsense.
And if I carried a gun, I would much, much prefer to have it displayed than to have it concealed.
Would you have it on your chest or on your hip?
I would prefer to have it on my chest.
Me too. That way, like, when you got it on your hip, some fucker from behind, I'm just being paranoid, but somebody from behind could snatch that off your hip. If you got it on your chest, like, it's pretty, it's pretty hard to get to without you getting to it first.
Yeah, and on your chest, which is where I carried it in Afghanistan, I would actually, if it was legal, I would wear a bulletproof vest with the chest-mounted holster. That's what I would do. And I would just wear that around. And no one would fuck with me, because guess what? People don't fuck with people who are carrying a 45 on their chest.
You know what that's called?
What's
that's
that?
called not getting caught slipping.
Right. Exactly.
You would be not. Well, you still could. You could still wear a bulletproof vest, right? Underneath some shit.
Well, you could wear a bulletproof vest, but the whole point is to have the weapon displayed.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. And then to be ready to use it. That's the other point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to be. The last thing you want is to not be ready to use it and then get it taken from you.
Because I will tell you, while I was in Afghanistan, in a seemingly more dangerous part of the country, what happened in Kabul is there were 8 Air Force officers in a meeting with one Afghan dude, and this one Afghan dude drew his pistol and killed all 8 of those Air Force officers, each of whom was armed, by the way, before any of them had a chance to draw and put a bullet in him. So
that's sad. It's fucked up, but that dude, that Afghani, was the fastest drawer in the Middle East for sure. That was like the Clint Eastwood of Afghanistan.
Well, I will tell you that it takes time to fire your weapon, recoil, fire again.
Like, I'm sure a bunch of people or a bunch of the officers at the time were like, "Is this really happening? Like, what the fuck's even happening right now?"
That's true, and that I did have that advantage where I was at, which is that I always expected that to happen. Yeah. Now, it never did, but I always expected it to happen. I was always ready for it to happen. When I had that weapon on, I was ready to draw it and fire it at any time. It was always loaded. I mean, it's not like I was Barney Fife in it.
Were you ever in a situation where it was you and 7 of your buddies in a room alone with one guy?
No, but I was in a situation once, and I've told you the story, where it was me alone in the room with about 30 Afghans.
Well, right. In that situation, it makes sense for you to be ready for whatever. But when it's you and your buddies and there's just one dude there, you might let your guard down a little bit, right? You're thinking he's not even gonna try nothing. There's 8 of us here.
Not if he has a fucking weapon on him. If he's got a weapon on him, I'm ready to use my weapon.
Good.
So, in any event,
good.
Point is, I think my experience in Afghanistan taught me that why don't we all just wear them out in the open? Helps deter things if you're prepared to use it.
Can you do that? Does it have to be concealed if you have a concealed carry?
Yes, you're not allowed to walk around publicly with weapons on your hip in places where it's not explicitly authorized.
Huh.
So we do have gun control. Just a weird kind. All right.
You know what? It's fine if it's concealed. You know? I mean, I think you're right, but like, if you have to hide it, then it's okay to hide it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, why are you doing that, dude?
What?
You know I can see you, right?
Oh, I guess so. I just decided to floss spontaneously. Sometimes I do that.
That was a weird impulse you had.
Yeah, just please never do that in my sight.
What about the robot?
Robot's fine. Robot's okay.
Okay. No, robot, yes. Floss, no. I'm gonna
No.
Gonna keep,
flossing.
All right. Gonna keep that in my
Parents
mental.
do not floss.
All right. Parents do not floss. Well, fair enough.
I said shins don't floss.
Oh, shins don't. Oh, I floss. All right. I'm telling you right now, I floss like crazy. 10-year-olds love it. The kids love it. I think they say
they like it from a dumbass video game, bro.
Well, they like it when they see an old person doing it. That's why.
Okay. Yeah. I guess.
It's cute. It's like seeing
Maybe
an
if
old
I was
person.
10 years younger, it would fill me with happiness instead of rage.
Or 15.
Doubtful.
15
Or
years.
shame.
You're a pretty rageful child, so
It's hard to say. All right, so it sounds like none of us saw shit this week, really.
No,
Didn't read
see
shit. Yeah.
I don't know nothing.
Yeah, I got no comment on pop culture. Okay, fair enough. So UFC last night, there was UFC. There was some elbows thrown, some knockouts were knocked and whatnot.
Did you hear it? Just, man, this wasn't in UFC. This was in one fighting championship, one FC, but Sage Northcutt got knocked out in like 30 seconds.
I heard about that.
And his face was broken in 9 places.
Oh my.
Or no. His face had several fractures. It was a 9-hour surgery. That's what he had to have a 9-hour surgery after that fight.
A 9-hour surgery after getting his. Now, would you say he got his ass beat?
Yeah. Yeah. If you have to go to surgery, like if they destroy you so hard that you need to go to surgery, that's getting your ass beat for sure.
Yeah.
But he didn't just get starched though. Like he got back up and tried to fight after his face was broken, and then he got hit again in his broken face, and then
that was the end of that.
That's getting your ass beat for sure. That's getting your face broken, honestly. Like, call that what it is. He just got his face broken.
By
literally.
definition, his face was broken.
Like, he needed 9 hours of surgery, and this dude's like 22.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about that. He might be like 20.
He's not.
Yeah. He's in his 20s. He's young, dude. He doesn't. He might not fight after this.
You remember though, he was billed as the next big thing for a few years. He's been like for a while. Dana White was like all over Sage Northcutt, but there was just one problem: Sage Northcutt really couldn't fucking fight, and so that it's no surprise that he's no longer part of the UFC promotion.
Well, yeah. And he hadn't fought in a long ass time before this fight, and it was there's all kind of reasons there's all kind of possible reasons what happened, but at the end of the day, what happened is he got his face destroyed, literally. Yeah. So and it was brutal, but it didn't look that bad though. Like I was watching it, and it didn't look that bad. Like I wouldn't have thought that he was about to need 9-hour surgery at the end of that fight.
Well, there you go. It's a dangerous sport.
Yeah, it is.
I like to watch it, but it is dangerous.
I like to watch it too. It's so fucking fun.
Yeah.
So cool. There's this guy at the bar the other day that was trying to he's like, yeah, I just like boxing. I don't really see the appeal in UFC. And I was like, well, UFC has boxing. Like there's boxing in there, but you could also kick someone in the face if you want, or like, attempt to break their arm. But there's boxing too. There's good boxing in the UFC. The UFC has what you like and also more.
And so much more.
So much more.
Right. Although
those and these dudes who are doing all this extra crazy shit are getting paid peanuts next to these boxers.
Yeah, no, we've had that conversation. We know this to be true. We do.
So it's crazy.
It is known.
Don't even care.
Sorry. There is a sports story to tell. The Preakness Stakes was run yesterday, and
it was Go ahead.
And the horse that won, War of Wills, was the horse that had been bumped by maximum security in the Kentucky Derby. Which suggests that War of Wills, who knows what might have happened in the Kentucky Derby. The fact that he won the Preakness makes maximum security's disqualification seem legit. Does it not?
Yeah.
Somehow it's a heartwarming tale.
Yeah, it's interesting that was the first time that had ever happened, right?
It is. Well, I'm just saying that the horse that got bumped won the next race. That means if the horse hadn't gotten bumped, maybe he'd have won the first race.
Well, yeah. But it's crazy that only one time in the Kentucky Derby ever had a horse fouled another horse and therefore had to be, stripped of its win in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, although if we went back far enough, it's a 150-year race. So if we went back 150 years, and assuming that we could time travel with a video camera and record all these and study them, who knows?
Perhaps it probably happened.
Yeah, perhaps other fouls occurred that weren't, called.
Yeah.
I think that might have happened. Yeah.
But dude, I used to work with this guy whose whole family, like, he just told me his whole family was into it, but I just knew because he was into it.
Right.
He was into that fucking Kentucky Derby and, like, betting on it. Like, there was all these terms, these strange terms that I'd never heard before. Like, it was crazy. He was, like, really into that shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we in fucking the South again in the 1850s?
Well, they know those terms. There's a lot of them. There's like, hooves and horseshoes and things.
No, it's definitely had nothing to do with hooves or horseshoes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know nothing about it. But anyway, so congratulations to War of Wills. That's what I know for sure.
Yeah, cool horse names. I wonder who names those horses?
Jockeys, isn't it?
No.
Or the people who breed them?
No, it's the damned owners. The owners decide what they're going to be called.
So an owner is like an owner of a baseball or football team or basketball team, and he buys thoroughbred horses and then like hires a jockey to ride them.
And trainers and all that other stuff. And sometimes these horses are so expensive that there's actually a consortium of owners. That can also be.
Oh, so there's more than one owner per horse.
Could be.
And then should they win, they split the winnings?
That's one possible way.
Or what is it? So what money does the jockey get?
They get some kind of prize money, but the real money is when if the horse wins one of these 3 races, or God forbid all 3 races, then there's these tremendous athletes. Stud fees are what really make the long-term back end. So if you buy a horse, let's say you buy it for $1 million, you win these races, a horse can win millions of dollars in earnings. Then in stud, more millions of dollars. So it can be a pretty lucrative investment to buy a racehorse. But, more often than not, horse flesh being what it is, you're normally not going to have that kind of success.
Yeah. You got to breed the ultimate horse for generations and shit.
Yeah, it's like anything else.
Or buy $1 million, $20 million horse.
Yeah, I mean, the more money you have, the more likely you are to have success because you can.
Do you think you could how long do you think it would take to breed? You just buy a semi-expensive thoroughbred, one that's really fast for $20,000 maybe. Okay, and then how long do you think it would take to just breed its children or whatever down the line into the ultimate racehorse?
I think probably that it doesn't have that much to do with, you could probably buy bull semen, right, or horse semen of championship horse semen. Now I don't know how who jerks a horse off or whatever to get that.
You got to do that, yeah. You have to do that.
Sarah, I was expecting you to.
The farmer has to watch. The rancher has to watch too. That's part of it. Not going to do anything funny. He's just going to watch with a camera. Not going to show anyone the videos. Those are for him. That's his private, personal collection.
Sarah, I keep waiting for Sarah to at any point say gross. No, not going to do it, huh?
I'm making these faces. I asked to unsubscribe from the content.
My computer's very low.
I see. All right.
Very much about to die.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we wrap it up this week then, shall we? All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Sounds good. A Shinn Show is a production of Shinfluence and features the voices and opinions of the Shinn family, which are entirely and exclusively their own.
Don't steal them.
And don't do it. It's brought to you on a fake basis by Ziff's Fine Dining in Invercargill, New Zealand, and by A Throne Room Tattoo Parlor, also in Invercargill, New Zealand. It's brought to you by our binge listener, Ben, and by the Shinn family for no apparent reason. As a reminder, if you listeners subscribe, stop that right away. And by all means, do not, under any circumstances, leave a review. We'll see you all next week.
I wonder, we should have well, you guys probably would not be interested in this contest, but it would be fun if there was some sort of recorded contest maybe on TV to see how many times you could organically fit the word abortion into a conversation in one day.
Oh, I'm
sure there's already a YouTube video to that effect.
Probably so, yeah.
It'd be fun to do it. Just say abortion as many times as you can in one day before
Guess what? You have the power.
Yeah. But it's not fun if it's not a competition,
I understand.
Otherwise, I'm just standing around saying abortion in the mirror at 4 a.m.
You mean you're not doing that now? I see. Yeah. Well,
I keep that to a minimum.
This has been a very special edition, for sure.